Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to do a little quick video just kind of recapping my October reading and talking about what I am reading now in November. And that's not a TBR. I don't do TBRs. That's just what I am reading currently right now. So to go back to October, I got my little notebook, my reading log, where I've logged every book I've read since the start of 2022, which by now is there's a fair number of books on this list. But I go month by month, and each month gets its own page. So October 2025, we got 7 books, 5 new reads, and 2 rereads, because it's always good to throw some of the good stuff back in the mix. Yeah, so let's see, what can I skip talking about, because I've already talked. We have Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray. It's a Star Wars novel. I talked about this in a prior video, so I will refer you to that there somewhere. And also Shakespeare by Bill Bryson. That was my last video on this channel. It's called Shakespeare. I thought that was a really solid biography, actually. It was, you don't need to get fancy with a Shakespeare biography, and Bryson was a pretty good choice, I think, for writing a modern one. What else can I skip? Dune. I reread Dune. I think I talked about it, actually, but if you haven't read Dune, read Dune. I don't care if you don't like science fiction. It is amazing. It's the best science fiction story out there. So, you heard it from me, folks. All right, so we clapped through a few of these already. Now to talk about the ones that I don't think I've talked about on this channel. But first up, we got How to Meditate by Lawrence LeShan from 1974. I'm just going to be really brief. I thought this was a crappy book. It does tell you strategies on how to meditate. There's a lot of different types of meditation, and LeShan goes through them. So it was good in that sense, but the actual writing and the tone that LeShan takes, where he likes to call a lot of things like hocus pocus, but he also has his own hocus pocus in the book that he's trying to push, like ESP and all that jazz. That's beside the point. I got rid of the book as soon as I finished it. The only thing that I learned really was how to do the breath counting meditation, which I picked that one out because that seemed like the kind of meditation that I would like the most. And I tried it out a few times, and it was pretty cool. Definitely relaxing, but I haven't kept up the habit, so I don't think the book was especially effective in jazzing me up for some more meditation. So kick that one out. Dogs of War by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Read that last month. Pretty fire, if I do say so myself. That was my second Adrian Tchaikovsky, and I don't know if it was my favorite, but I really liked it. We follow this dog-human-robot hybrid. It's called Bioform, named Rex. And Rex is, in the beginning of the novel, he's part of this team of robot hybrids, and they're committing war crimes in Mexico, trying to clean up loose ends for this like mercenary group, kind of like what is it called? Blackwater, or like the Wagner Group or somebody like that. So he's working for them. He's he's following orders because he's a robot with feedback chips. But he also has like organic matter sewn into his body or something. And something happens and he gets split up from his master and things start to go down. And I'm not going to get into any spoilers or anything, but throughout the book develops from this kind of hack and slash shooter to a lot of interesting questions involving like international courts and such on the legality of using robot soldiers, how we should treat these new beings, where should they live, what should they do, should we protect them, should we build more, should we develop this technology more, who should be in control of this technology, all sorts of questions. Did Tchaikovsky land on every answer? No, you wouldn't expect him to, especially as just a prolific sci-fi author, but it's good enough. The animal companions, Rex and his friends, Tchaikovsky kind of nails, I think, how they might have spoken. So it was pretty endearing to follow all these characters. So I really liked Dogs of War. And to go back to another Tchaikovsky book I read also this past month, I reread Ogres by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Now this is the second time I've read Ogres this year, actually. I read it in March or April, I think March, while I was on my audiobook kick, which I thankfully have stopped. But I read Ogres in March because it was or I listened to it in March because it was a short audiobook. It's a novella, and I really liked it. And I usually from audiobooks I don't remember much, but I think Ogres really stuck with me over the months. And I saw it at my library last month. I was like, oh, let me actually read this instead of earballing it. So I did, and I'll say that Ogres is a surprising and disturbing read. Tchaikovsky keeps switching it up. In the beginning, you start out in this pretty standard like medieval fantasy realm with giants, and then all of a sudden things start to go down and we're thrust into this dystopian world that you just keep learning more and more about it, and it's just more and more horrifying. So I think this is a big hit for a novella. It's got to be under 200 pages, but I think Tchaikovsky definitely packs a punch in what he put down in Ogres. It's not top of my list for dystopian because that's a pretty stacked genre. I mean, you got all the beasts of the 20th century in the dystopian genre, but it's definitely an admirable effort for a recent dystopian publication. So that one gets another thumbs up from me. Did I mention Dune? I did, didn't I? You should read Dune. And the last book to talk about is Homeland by R.A. Salvatore. It is a Dungeons and Dragons fantasy novel written by R.A. Salvatore, part of the Forgotten Realms series, and it's book 1 of the Dark Elf trilogy. So that's quite a mouthful, obviously. But the main thing is it's book 1 of a trilogy featuring Drizzt, who's a dark elf, and I think he's the subject of like 40 books or something. But This is the first one chronologically, where we start from Drist's birth up until his teenage years or something. And the gist of Homeland is that Drist lives in the Dark Elf Society in the Underdark, which is under the surface, within the region of Menzoberranzan. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And within the Dark Elf Society, or Drow Society, because that's another name for the Dark Elves, the Drow. There's a whole series of noble houses or families, and there's only so many people that can be in the upper echelon, and they're all vying for spots in the regional power rankings of the noble families. So there's a lot of cutthroat dealings, and pretty much anything's legal as long as you don't get caught. If you get caught, your house gets obliterated by everybody else. They're very proper. They're like, oh, as long as we don't see it, it's okay. So, of course, Drist's family is greatly involved in trying to move up in the rankings, and all these dark elves are just horrible people. The society's horrible. They're all self-serving. They're all jerks. They're all murderers, except for Drist, who's the main character, and he's a good, naive young boy. He's trained by this accomplished swordsman named Zaknafein, who I guess used to be a little more like Drist, but now he's more jaded, cynical. He enjoys killing his kinsmen just because he hates them. So Drist is growing up in this really crappy society, and the audience is going back and forth on how he's going to turn out as a dark elf, or what's he gonna do. I didn't think this book was any good. I think the setting and the story showed promise, but man, R.A. Salvatore, he was holding my hand the whole time. I swear I've never had a reading experience like that where the author thought I was so dumb. Like, just to give an example, I turned the book back into the library, so I don't have it, but Salvatore would be like, oh, this character thought something, and then the character, after thinking that, would do exactly the thing, and Salvatore would say that he did the thing, or she did the thing, whatever. And then the third sentence would be Salvatore then explaining what the thing was that had been done. It was like 3 sentences in a row of the same thing, just stretched out over and over. I said, I don't think Dungeons and Dragons people are that dumb. Like, I don't think they obviously have great imaginations, I think, to play the game how they do. I don't think they're just brain dead. Like, you can definitely write a book where you assume some bit of brain power on the audience, but I think I gave it like a 2 out of 5 on Goodreads. I wrote a review. I'll link that below. But yeah, that was kind of disappointing. I was hoping to read the whole trilogy, but I'm not going to. So, all right, that was October. That was my 7 books in October. Kind of crappy month for me, but was really glad to reread Dune. Dune is so good, and that was my book of the month, even though it was a reread. If that wasn't book of the month, then it would have been Ogres or Dogs of War by Tchaikovsky, but nothing beats Dune. So, and I didn't want to pick between the 2 Tchaikovskys. So yeah, that was what I read in October. What am I reading now in November? Well, tell you what, I just finished a book. It's by Kurt Vonnegut. It's called Whampeters, Foma, and Granfalloons. This was published by Delta. I'll look at Kurt. So, Whampeters, Foma, and Granfalloons. It says in parentheses here, opinions, but it's basically an essay collection. It's full of essays, newspaper/journalism articles, speeches, and even there's one bit of fiction in there, which is a short science fiction like screenplay or something like that. Now, I don't want to say too much about this because I think I'd like to make a full video on it. But I loved this book so much. I finished it quite quickly. I already want to reread it, but it's besides the point. And it just really made me like Kurt Vonnegut. I've only read Slaughterhouse-Five before, but this is one of the reasons why essay collections or like personal writings, letters, and such are so important to learning about an author, because sometimes you may get to know them through novels, but that's not always their like true voice. And sure, an essay collection could be totally falsified by the author. They could also be writing as somebody else. But here, I thought Kurt Vonnegut was really genuine, and I loved it. And I actually today wrote a 1,000-word review just for fun, because I had such a great time with this and I wanted to share that with other people. So that still needs some editing, but hoping to get that out there. I'm trying to make a website. I had a WordPress website for my book reviews, but I was having a lot of trouble. I didn't think it was very intuitive how that site worked, so I'm trying to brainstorm some new ideas. But I'll definitely put on my Goodreads for now, since it's not a new release. Whampeters, Foma, and Granfalloons. Awesome book if you ever find it. Other book I'm reading. Yeah, The First King of England by David Woodman. This is a new release. Came out in September. It's about King Athelstan of England, 10th century English king. He ruled from 924 to 939, and he's famous for, this book says Athelstan and the Birth of a Kingdom, but his claim to fame is that he was the first Anglo-Saxon English king to establish control of all of England, that being the territory of England proper as we know it. And I said this in a prior video, my English history book haul, but some think Alfred the Great was the first king of England. He was one of the kings of Wessex, and he established control of a couple different provinces of England, but it wasn't the whole. Then Alfred the Great's son, Edward the Elder, annexed a couple more territories, and then Athelstan basically just cleaned up the north of England, Northumbria. He took that back from the Vikings through a little bit of shrewd politicking and such. But in 927, he became king of the English. So I'm almost done with this book. I'm not really having a good time. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm disappointed by this book. I think the main thing is that it's just it's too in depth. We have such little sourcing for the 10th century other than like law codes and land grants and witness lists for different assemblies. And Woodman is just taking us through the ringer on these detailed primary sources that I'm not too into it. I think the story of Ethelstan is cool, but this might be a little too academic for even for my tastes, which is getting to be rarer and rarer. But maybe this book could have just been a little shorter, but we'll see. I'm not done with it yet. I don't want to rule it out yet. So it's First King of England by David Woodman. And it's the granddaddy of them all. This is definitely going to be in the thumbnail, but we got my first time reading The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Doing a buddy read with a buddy, and he wanted to read Way of Kings years ago when we had first started reading Sanderson in 2022. I haven't read Sanderson since 2022, but we had a good time. We buddy read all of Mistborn, like all 7 of the Mistborn books. Loved the first era. Second era, I was a little disappointed with, but I thought it was fine. So we had been talking about doing the Stormlight Archive for a long time. But I kind of got away from fantasy for a long while, few years. I don't dislike fantasy or anything, but we're back. We're doing Way of Kings. I'm like 100 pages in right now. Just started last night. I'm not gonna say Sanderson is a beautiful writer or anything, but he's getting the job done right now. I'm flying through the pages when I am reading it, so that's really all I could ask for here. So I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to digging some more into this. But hoping for less Shallan time, less Shallan POV. She's annoying. So yeah, that's my little October wrap up and what I'm reading in November. The books I'm on right now should take me like a week or so. I don't know how I could finish Way of Kings pretty quickly, but we'll see. So that's that. Thanks for watching. Check the reviews or friend me on Goodreads if you want to see more of my stuff. I try to write reviews for everything I read, at least a short review. But like the Kurt Vonnegut book I just read, sometimes I just go ham. So yeah, I'll talk to you next time.